Coming up on today's episode of PSN, Ryan Straschnitzki joins the show to talk about the new AMI documentary series, We Were Broncos. It follows his story as he tries to learn and engage with wheelchair basketball. All that and more to come on Parasport Nation.
Welcome to Parasport Nation with Alex Smyth and Nathan Clement.
Welcome into Parasport Nation. I'm Alex Smyth, and as always, I'm joined by co-host Nathan Clement. Nathan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Alex. I can't wait to share today's episode with everyone.
Yeah, there is a lot to get to. Obviously, we have Ryan joining us in a bit, but there was a ton happening in the world of parasports this weekend. So Nathan, take it away with the PSN update.
Now, the PSN update.
We go to the City Light as the fourth installment of the Women's Wheelchair Rugby Cup took to Paris, France. The 4-day tournament featured 8 teams and athletes from all around the world. With electrifying crowds, host France and Great Britain competed for bronze, while Haute Cour battled the Energy team in the gold medal game. In a tight bronze medal match, Great Britain defeated the hosts 46-44, and in the title, Energy team took the crown 52-37 to win gold. We quickly hop across the Atlantic and reach the Maritimes as the puck is dropped in the Para Hockey Cup. In the opening matches, Canada bested Czechia 9-2 before facing China and United States in round-robin play. TSN and RDS will broadcast the medal games on Saturday, December 14th. All other games are available on a pay-per-view basis at hnllive.ca. And finally, in the pool, Nicholas Bennett and Orly Rivard were named Swimming Canada's Para-Athletes of the Year. At the 2024 Paralympics, Bennett took 2 golds and 1 silver. It's the second straight year he's won the Male Swimmer of the Year. Rivard came home with 1 of each, gold, silver, and bronze, to increase her games medal total to 13. It's the 7th time she's been named Female Swimmer of the Year. Sebastian Masabi received the Breakout Swimmer of the Year. After setting the Canadian record and reaching the final in his first 2 individual events in Paris, Masabi captured gold in the S450 free in world record time for the gold. And that's the PSN update.
Nathan, there is a ton within that update. I want to unpack it all with you. Let's start at the top. So the Women's Wheelchair Rugby Cup that just wrapped up in Paris this weekend. We had Brianna Hennessy on. She was part of that silver medal winning team, Haute Cour, who battled up against the other kind of joint a mashup team of Energy team. It's a great competition. It's great to see you have this growing sport with 8 teams competing. That's what you want to see.
Oh, it's everything. It's massive. And just like trying to find like data and information on this, especially like watching the matches, just the crowds were vibrant. The crowds were excited and the play was top notch. So it's really growing and it's only in its real infancy as a sport. And you have athletes like Brianna Hennessy coming over there who just won a silver medal in Paris, but also is trying to take that next step and help grow a sport she loves, she cares about, and giving other women with disabilities the opportunity to really be a part of a community and celebrate sport. It's really, really amazing to see just the growth that sport is having.
Yeah, the one issue and challenge that I know you and I found was trying to get the insights, trying to get the information, trying to find the rosters for all these different teams. This is a struggle when it comes to some sports, some NSOs within the parasport world. Information isn't always readily available.
Exactly. It can be a struggle. It can be a fight. I've been lucky enough to have done a former AMI show of Parasport Update, and as well now doing the PSN updates. There's a lot of research, and sometimes it's just following breadcrumb trails all the way around just to find like details or information, where Instagram is often, or Facebook is often my best resource. All of a sudden I see an athlete post a story, I see a team post a story that they're in Spain or they're somewhere else in France, for example, then I have to spend time dedicating to finding the research, finding the data, finding the information that should be available, that should be more available just of sport in general. And it's kind of showing that there's still a long way to go with that kind of research, that kind of data, that kind of information, because at the end of the day, we're really only hurting ourselves as a movement, as games, as sports try to grow, sports try to expand, when we can't cover ourselves, when we can't share the successes, the highs, the remarkable achievements of tournaments like the Women's Rugby Cup, it's very, very difficult to really have sport go forward. And I think that accessibility and visibility is so important. You do a lot of grassroots stuff, and sometimes for events that you're doing, it's difficult to find who's going to be doing what and what's their background in that sport.
Absolutely. And this is the struggle that it comes down to resources and we've talked about this before. The para sport community, they're usually dealing with much more limited resources than, the able-bodied counterparts or the other professional counterparts. The one sport, though, that has been getting good buzz, good awareness around it is the para ice hockey tournament taking place in PEI. You listed out some of the scores from the first matches of the tournament. It's great to see their support from Hockey Canada and then from TSN to cover the games, RDS to cover the title matches on the weekend. But for an athlete, how important is it when you can be able to compete on home soil, have that crowd behind you? Because as you were mentioning with the Women's Wheelchair Rugby Cup, the crowds were electric. If they're there cheering for you and the home team, that's got to be an added boost.
Oh yeah, it takes you to another level. It raises the game and it raises the stakes. And I will never forget at the Toronto 2015 Para-Pan Am Games, the first night, one of my teammates, Nicholas Guy Turbide, won gold in the 100-meter backstroke for S13. And I just remember him hitting that wall and just that crowd erupting with passion, with energy, with light. And for someone who's in an individual sport like swimming at that point, seeing one teammate reach the wall like that was a feeling of, okay, I want to experience that. And I feel it elevates everyone's experience and everyone's kind of energy because you have that support. You have that crowd there, whether it's family, friends, or just unknown strangers cheering you on. It is really, really beautiful just to see a crowd come behind you, or even when you're an away squad going in there. Like I remember in Rio in 2016, or even the Paris 2024 games, just having crowds there, whether you're the home team or not, can be a huge, huge difference. And even it's the small things, whether it's people yelling, screaming your name in the crowd, or even at points, like I did a race in Quebec City in 2022, my first ever international race. And as I was coming down to fight for silver and bronze, I could hear people banging spoons on like the side of houses, yelling, "Allez Canada, allez Canada," and just bringing that noise. And even like there were some people that knew it was so hot outside, so they'd be like bringing out hoses like to cool you down and keep you cold while you're racing, while you're competing. So there's like that hometown advantage, there's that home country advantage that can be just so special and so unique to see. And with sports like para ice hockey, it's growing, it's expanding, and it's at the forefront of what's possible for Canadian sport, especially Canadian para sport. With those crowds and energies, it's going to be really exciting to see what's going to happen with wheelchair basketball when they host the World Championships in 2026.
Now, are you sure they were bringing out the hoses to help cool you off and not try to blow some of the competitors off the track? That is one thing that, in you describing them bringing out the hoses, I'm not sure if it's always meant to be a positive and not just trying to spray with some of the other racers on the track.
It kept me cool, so I'm not gonna I'm not gonna ask if it's ands or buts about it. I just felt like a bit of water shooting me in the back and the side of my body, and I was like, okay, I'm cold now, let's go.
Well, as long as you view it as a positive, Nathan, that's all that matters. And there's also tons of award buzz as well from Swimming Canada naming the Para Swimmers of the Year. And PSN, we will be having our own end-of-year award ceremonies. We will have some awards to give out on the last show of the year, so be sure to stay tuned for PSN for that. But now, let's switch over to a conversation with Ryan Straschnitzki. AMI and Prairie Cat Productions are putting together a 6-part documentary series that follow Ryan's journey and as he works towards his goal of making Canada's Paralympic wheelchair basketball team. Straschnitzki was paralyzed from the chest down when a bus carrying the Humboldt Broncos junior hockey team crashed in April of 2018. He joins now to chat about his sports journey. Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So first off, congrats on the docu-series with AMI, We Were Broncos. How has the filming for that project been going?
It's been good. I've filmed before in the past, but this one is a little, they're there a lot, and when they are here, your days are filled. So it can be exhausting at times, but I'm glad that people will get to see the insight as to what goes on kind of in the daily life of myself.
Without giving too much away, what can people expect from this series?
A lot of ups and downs and a couple curveballs. I mean, for people watching, the goal is to obviously make the Paralympics for wheelchair basketball, but I think they're going to see an insight as to, what might be going on behind the scenes in order to get there, what might be impeding me to get there. There's a lot of heartfelt moments as well, a lot of interviews with people closest to me. There's a lot of things that'll probably tug on the heartstrings of a lot of people.
And for yourself, what insight do you hope people take away when they finish watching that series? Is there a specific message or a specific thought that you want to leave people with once they finish?
A lot of it came from facing different forms of adversity and always moving forward. I think they'll get an insight again to some of the people closest to me, but also when I do my interviews, I talk a lot about the obstacles that I've faced and other people have faced. But more importantly, it's that, life moves forward and you can either move with it or, shelter yourself. And I like to take the former. So, just always moving forward, learning from any form of adversity and realizing that there's always potential out there. And no matter the situation you're in, you can always achieve your goals.
How has it been starting your own wheelchair basketball journey and trying to go for LA now in 2028?
It's been cool. It's been different. I mean, wheelchair basketball is a little different from sled hockey. Sled hockey is a little more sporadic and quick. You're not really thinking as much. You're just trying to get out there, score goals, and hit. But with wheelchair basketball, it's a lot more methodical. You're learning to play your position and play it well, and then compete against guys that are way more skilled than you. So it's a lot of catch up and learning to play the sport in a short amount of time. But I'm enjoying it. It's a lot of fun.
And for yourself, like this has been a pretty publicized journey that you've been on, and obviously sport was a big part of your life prior to the accident and then also as part of your recovery. What's it been like kind of going through this journey, and are there certain lessons or kind of insights that you've gained through this journey with parasport that maybe you weren't aware of beforehand?
There's a lot of things. I mean, the work ethic amplifies. I mean, being a junior hockey player, you work hard, but when you try to make the Olympics or Paralympics, it's a whole nother level. It's dedication 24/7. And then on top of that, when the accident happened, I was 18, right? I didn't have to worry about life or work or anything like that. So learning to balance work, life, moving forward, and trying to make the Paralympics at the same time is a little daunting. So I guess having acquired this injury later on in life and learning to navigate every part or every aspect has been a bit of a challenge, but I always, like to have this hidden faith that if you do the right things and you're a good person and you try to help others, that good things will happen to you. So, we'll wait to see what happens, but, I'm hoping just to continue to learn and grow and make my dreams become a reality.
What led you to wheelchair basketball? What called you in that direction of that sport?
So I made the national sled hockey tryout, Paralympic, whatever you want to call it, camp. And afterwards, they basically told me that with my level of disability, that it's almost a disadvantage in the sport and that there's nothing I could do about it. So I did some research. I'm like, well, what sports can I play that are inclusive? And the first one that popped up was wheelchair basketball. And I knew a guy there that was on the national team. His name's Nick Gonchin. And he kind of led me into the sport, got me a beat up chair, was trying it out. And I was like, I like that team atmosphere. So, I joined the sport right away, tried to learn as best I could and learned by making a ton of mistakes and getting yelled at. But, going into my second year, I'm well equipped and adapted quite well, but it's still got a lot to learn.
What was that first experience like when you finally went onto the court with that beat up chair and played your first round of wheelchair basketball or tried your first practice?
It was exciting. I knew that if I work hard enough, maybe I won't be too far behind. So that's the main thing I wanted to get across at tryouts was You might be more skilled, but I'm going to outwork you every time. So that's my goal with this, just to put as much work as I can into the sport and see what happens.
With the Straz Foundation, you do a lot of work on finding accessible equipment for people with disabilities. Has there been anything that you've taken the most pride in since starting that, or any stories that stand out most? As I've seen, there's been a lot of adaptive, mountain bikes, other equipment that you've helped try to find and get people to be out and active.
Yeah, it's always rewarding. I know the power of sport and what it does for your mental health, physical health, and allows you to get reintegrated into society in your own way. So with that in mind, we're trying to raise as much money as we can, buy as much adaptive equipment as we can. But the new thing that we started now with the Straz Strong Foundation is to document the whole process. So allowing these individuals to share their story, how the equipment benefits them, and why people should be more involved and bring more awareness to this realm that people have no idea about. So our hope with these documentaries is to broadcast them, get people aware, showcase where the money's going, and buy as much as equipment and rehabilitation needs as possible.
Yeah, that's always a phenomenal work to be done. Having covered the disability parasport community for close to a decade at this point, there is always the need. There's always the interest, especially on the grassroots levels. But it's that getting that access, getting the resources available to allow people to access the game, because it has such an impact on those who are trying to whether learn to adjust with the new disability or trying to find a social outlet. Can you talk about how the power of sport kind of helped you in your recovery?
Yeah, I think even before the accident, sport taught me a lot of valuable life lessons, learning to handle adversity, learning to fail and make mistakes and be a part of a team and work together on good and bad teams, and really find out who you are as an individual. Are you a leader? Are you a follower? How are you going to make an impact and eventually win at the sport and win at life? And, a lot of those lessons that I learned was lead by example. I mean, I'm not a huge talker. So I tried to lead by example by putting in the work and showcasing on the court or on the ice or in the gym even. So yeah, it taught me valuable life lessons that I carry with me today. And I'm hoping that same sort of aspect, those same life lessons can be taught to other individuals that get involved in adaptive sport.
With the sports you're trying, whether it's the para ice hockey, whether it's the wheelchair basketball, and even now getting into a lot of documentary work and producing and filmmaking, is there anything that you want to share most about your journey, but maybe what it means to be a person with disability and an athlete with a disability?
Yeah, I mean, it's all amazing. I don't know where I'm going to end up. I just know that I'm going to try as many sports as I can, try to bring them into the spotlight a little bit through social media and documentaries. And I've just realized that these individuals are absolutely incredible. And I think there needs to be way more awareness. I mean, it goes beyond sport. It goes to accessibility, architecture, anything like that, inclusive language, whatever that looks like, needs to be brought into the spotlight a little bit. And I'm hoping that through this documentary, through Straz Strong, through social media, that eventually we can get to a point where everyone's equal and we all have this universally designed world, I guess, and language and inclusivity and architecture, all of the above.
Well, and one thing that Nathan and I have talked about on the show in the past is when it comes to things like parasport, the nature of an individual's disability can really have impact on the types of sports that they pursue. You talked about how with the nature of your disability, it became a real challenge to pursue the national team with the para ice hockey. Like for myself, I have vision loss and hearing loss. Those two disabilities kind of come in contrast with a lot of the para sports for someone who's blind or someone who's deaf. So did that surprise you how kind of that became an extra wrinkle that you would have to navigate in finding a para sport that was suitable, but also in just something you enjoyed playing?
Yeah, I think it was a hard reality or hard pill to swallow. Because obviously, when I play a sport, I want to get to the top level. I want to represent and be as skilled as possible. But basically, knowing that I would never get there was tough, and that got me thinking. I'm like, I wonder if there could be divisions where, maybe they're not in the Paralympics, but it's the highest level you can play with your disability. So allowing for more inclusivity, allowing for different divisions, and allowing for people of all abilities to play any sport they want, and somehow designing a way for that to work. And it's been really eye-opening. It's been tough, but I've directed that energy elsewhere to basketball and other sports.
And speaking of basketball and other sports, is there any other para sports you would love to try or love to learn more about and maybe showcase to other people?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't tried tennis yet. I've heard that's pretty cool. There's all sorts of things. I've tried golf. I wish golf had more of a population in the sport, and maybe over time it will. Um, I'm sure there's so many more sports out there that I just don't even know about that I'd love to try. So, yeah, I mean, I'm open to it all. I'm gonna try it all and see which one fits best.
Well, Ryan, we can certainly tell you in doing our show, we have learned there is no shortage of para sports for every ability, every disability, and new ones keep emerging as we continue to do this show more and more. So I'm sure there's going to be plenty other opportunities for you to try something new and different. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today, and I hope we can connect down the road, see how your journey continues, and you can fill us in on some of the other para sports you've had a go at.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for having me on.
That was a fascinating conversation with Ryan Straschnitzki. Nathan, there's a lot there that I want to pick up on. First off, the fact that it's got to be so hard for Ryan, obviously someone who has such a hockey background, to go to that selection camp and basically be told, hey, you know what? There's not a spot here on our roster, on our team, because of the nature of your disability. Your sports journey with para ice hockey is basically ending here. That's got to be devastating.
Yeah, that's got to be a real difficult conversation and a reflection, and it's a challenging thing that so many athletes go through too. It's where you have a classification or a sport you want to fall into, you want to fall in love with, but with the nature of classification, it can either be advantageous or a disadvantage. But for Ryan to look at another opportunity, to look at another sport and explore wheelchair basketball and really want to share and document the highs, but also the lows of what it takes trying to qualify for a Paralympic Games is absolutely remarkable, as it is such a demanding sport, especially wheelchair basketball, with its grassroots and with its development that is needed on that team. And especially when you have a star-studded squad with people like Patrick Anderson, as you mentioned, Nick Gonchin, Colin Higgins, and so many top-level athletes, you're really having to rise above every single day. But it's also just a testament to that community, to that grassroots for wheelchair basketball, allowing him to film, document, and share his story, and just showing what it's like at that foundational community level. That's something we talk about a lot, is that community and that foundation and that grassroots. And it's so critical to have a story being broadcasted like that, of showing what it's like to begin and what it's like trying to reach the ultimate dream, the ultimate goal of a Paralympic Games.
Well, and the fact that he talks about, like, part of why he wants to document all this is to raise the awareness, is to get more opportunities for folks to engage with the sports. Because the thing is, not every para sport is the same. They don't have the depth of the grassroots in the pathway for athletes to make it to the next level. Para ice hockey, it's very strong at the top. There's a ton of support from Hockey Canada, from these other kind of national sport organizations and support systems. But as Ryan kind of alluded to, and you kind of find out through the journey, there isn't really the grassroots foundation to really allow for a growth towards the national program. You either kind of get to that point where you can make the national team, or you don't. There's not these stages or levels underneath that in the same way that there is for something like wheelchair basketball. I mean, when we had Patrick Anderson on the show, he talked about being able to go and play at a club level, play, in America on a team in various clubs around the world, from Europe to North America and things like that. It's like, that is a foundation that allows athletes to go wherever they want to within the sport. If they want to achieve the national level, they can work within the club level. They can work on provincial levels and build up towards that. You don't quite have that with para ice hockey, and unfortunately, there's a lot of other sports where that's kind of the same thing. You have a very limited pathway up. You either are at a certain level that you can kind of compete and try to get to that national level, or you are back down to an occasional kind of open tournament or something like that. So I'm glad to see that he has found a sport that really aligns with his kind of mindset, with his vision of where he wants to go with his sport career. That's going to also be allowing him to more opportunities to compete.
Exactly. As you mentioned with like wheelchair basketball, they have that foundational structure, whether it's team tournaments. I know like Team BC was just recently in Eastern Washington going up against the universities over there. And that's kind of the case with like para ice hockey or even my sport of cycling. And there's many other sports like that that don't have that team structure, but you're starting to see with para ice hockey more and more. Like just recently in November, we had the Sea Pool World Championships where Finland won, but you had countries like Thailand and Australia there. And that's just showing that grassroots growth and that grassroots development's really starting to come through. And it just takes that time. It takes that time. And one thing we really got to realize as para athletes, especially in my case, I'm a Paralympian now. I'm at that highest level, but that grassroots is what's going to keep our sports afloat 10, 15 years down the line. And with a lot of stuff going on through like the Minister of Sport, Carla Qualtrough, and a lot of other aspects of Canadian sport, we're really starting to understand how important it is to have that community, have that grassroots, and just have accessible equipment. Like one thing Ryan mentioned as well is the Straz Strong Foundation, and just how he's working and how he's telling these stories about trying to get people to have adaptive equipment, to have the necessary equipment and gear. And even for himself, when he first tried wheelchair basketball, he was on a rickety old chair given to him by Nick Gonchin, but it just shows that people are willing to give back, and he's willing to give back, give that time, give that opportunity to help others who are in his same position, really trying to connect and find what they love. Because at the end of the day, it's about finding what you love and sticking to a sport that you're passionate about, because that's how you bring that community up. That's how you bring that development up. And that's how you bring everyone together. And you're only as strong as everyone in your community, whether you're a 5-time gold medalist or you're just doing your first camp. We are all the same at the end of the day. And we're all just trying to broadcast our sport and share our sport to more and more audiences.
Absolutely. And, it's also, you have the funding aspect there of the cost of equipment, and the cost of entry for a lot of these different para sports vary drastically. Para ice hockey, any wheelchair sport, any cycling, like for yourself, is far more expensive than to get into something like swimming. So there is certainly a need to have programs and funding supports to allow people to try those events. But, it's also important to highlight new sports that are taking place. And we have an exciting guest lined up for our Friday episode. Ryan was talking about trying new sports and different sports. Well, maybe he might want to try wheelchair, motocross, or WCMX. We have Victor Nelson from the World WCMX Federation coming on the show, sharing a little bit of insight of this new and emerging para sport, extreme motocross. You won't want to miss it. But that is the end of our show today. Thank you for watching and listening. Check us out next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Parasport Nation. Like and subscribe to the channel to follow us now.